Hello, everyone, and welcome to Medieval Book Club. I am very excited you're here. We are going to go on a bit of a journey together today through multiple pieces of literature that I have in my collection. We're going to talk it through. We're going to start with this big one, but we're going to end with this brand new book that I just bought called Monasteriales Indicia. Hold for applause. So where this mental pilgrimage began is when we were checking into the absolute best cross-section book ever by Stephen Biesty, which some of you might remember we did a reading from a couple weeks ago. And I think it's the best book ever. It has all these amazing cross-section illustrations. And we were focusing on this one that was about life in a monastery. And there was this footnote that I just thought was so interesting. It was talking about the monks' meal times. At their 2 daily meals, dinner and supper, monks sat far apart and in silence. This didn't prevent communication, though. Monks chatted away using hand signals. 18th century Benedictine monks used an elaborate language of 460 signs. And I immediately was like, I need to get that information. So I found this book that is a breakdown of some of the sign language that they used in monastic communities. It is edited by Debby, Banham. Here is that spelling, because I'm sure I'm pronouncing it with a little extra flavor. And on the back, it says, written in Old English, which is what I speak, it consists of 127 signs used by Anglo-Saxon monks during the times when the Benedictine rule forbade them to speak. Perfect, right? This is just what I needed. So I wanted to jump right into this. I actually have a monk standing by who's going to help us figure them all out. Hey there. We're going to keep them on hold, though. I thought we should probably learn who St. Benedict is, right? Because he is the one who started one of the very first Catholic monastic communities. He wrote the rule that encouraged silence, which then generated this sign language. So I thought, we'll just learn a little bit. But that means we get to engage with this book, which is called Saints in Art. And if you're a member of the Greedy Peasant Patreon, you know we just did a reading from this where we learned about Barb and her backstory. This book is written by Rosa Giorgi, Giorgi, and it's published by the Getty Museum in Los Angeles. And I think it's a great book. It's all about popular saints and the way they are depicted in art, the symbols, their dress, other characteristics that help you identify them. So there's St. Bernard, and here's St. Benedict. Okay, because I remember St. Benedict from my childhood saint book, but I'm not sure I could identify him outside of that context, so this helps us with that. So, Rosa writes that St. Benedict would be dressed in a typical black robe of an abbot, so that's how you would recognize him on a stained glass window. He is featured with a book of the rule he wrote, a crosier, which is that hooked staff, a crow with bread in its beak, a chalice of snakes, a cane, and a bundle of sticks. So I think in my book, he was a man in a black robe with a crow and a piece of bread. So this is all adding up. And then here is a very short biography of him, just so we can get a sense of the man who said that we should not be talking. Benedict was born in Nursia in Italian Umbria around AD 480. He concluded his liberal studies in Rome, where he risked being caught up with the corrupt Roman youth. It's quite a statement. However, he preferred to retreat in silence and prayed in the forest in the river valleys. Around 500, he took up residence in a cave where he began his life as a hermit. Many disciples followed him, and he founded a number of monasteries in the valley. Unfortunately, he aroused jealousy and envy in other religious friars. Drama. And according to the Golden Legend, which I guess I gotta read this Golden Legend, it shows up so much as a reference. The monks of a nearby monastery attempted to rebel against the rigid discipline he imposed and poisoned him. Benedict later moved to Monte Cassino and founded a famous monastery there. So that's the shortest biography ever. He is the patron saint of farmers, Italian architects, chemists, engineers, and speleologists, which I looked up, and that is someone who studies caves. And this man lived in a cave, so special devotions. He was proclaimed the patron saint of Europe in 1964. No brat. But really, this is a means to an end to get us to the sign language. Okay, so that's Benedict, and he wrote the Benedictine rule. And I thought, okay, now I should try and figure out what that is and why he's telling his monks that they can't talk. Because I'm someone who loves to talk. So in the Benedictine rule, chapter 6 is labeled concerning silence. In it, Benedict writes, "Let us do what the prophet says." And I don't know what prophet he's talking about. Quote, "I will watch my ways, that I transgress not with my tongue. I set a watch upon my mouth. I became dumb and humbled and silent from good." I don't relate. Then it continues. Okay, this explains it. Here the prophet shows, if one ought sometimes to abstain from speaking good for the sake of keeping silent, how much more ought one to be deterred from evil words on account of the penalty of sin? But I think it's if you're talking, you're at risk for sin. And I have to say, in my experience, that is true. It is written, in much speaking, thou will not escape sin. Much speaking happens around here, and sin does happen. So if you cut out all that talking, I would sin less. It's true. I don't want to stop talking. And then I thought chapter 42 is also interesting. This chapter is called That No One Talk After Compline, which is one of the prayers that are said at a specific time throughout the day. This one's said at nighttime. Monks ought to be zealous to keep silent at all times, but especially through the hours of the night. And then this part gets a little tricky. It says, soon after rising from supper, let the monks all go and sit down together, and let one of them read anything that might be edifying to hear, but not from the first 7 books of the Bible, nor the book of Kings, because it would not be profitable for those of weak intelligence to hear this portion of Scripture at that hour of the day. So little dummy over here can't handle Genesis before bedtime. But then it says, though at other hours let them be read, as if I'm going to just love hearing that at 9 a.m. I don't know. There is a logic to it, of course. I just can't understand it. And that is what St. Benedict would describe as weak intelligence. So now I think we're finally able to understand the context better of this monastic sign language, which is what we're really here for today. So let's head once again back over to the Monasteriales Indicia. As I said before, we do have a medieval monk on standby. Hi. That's Bobby. He just joined the monastery, so I thought he is our perfect guest because he needs to learn all of this sign language so he can be communicating with his fellow monks, right? Right? Yeah, he's practicing. Okay, in the introduction, Debby writes, it would be impossible to follow the rule of St. Benedict with its insistence on silence, not only in church but also at table and at night. You got that? Without some means of non-verbal communication. In fact, St. Benedict prescribes that his monks should use signs rather than speaking if they need anything at mealtimes. Oh, interesting. Okay, number 1. It says, first, the sign for the abbot is that one puts one's 2 fingers to one's head and takes hold of one's hair with them. Okay, you want to try that? So that's abbot, so that's your boss. Number 2 is the sign for the dean is that one makes as if one were ringing a small bell with one's hand hanging down. So this is, upper management. Oh, this is important. Number 7. If you want to indicate anything about the church, then make with your 2 hands as if you were ringing a bell, then put your index finger up to your mouth and then raise it up. I don't think it's like this. I think it's like a bell, like a rope. Yeah. Maybe? What else do you need to know? Oh, here we go. Oh, incense. Because I feel like you're going to be on incense duty. This is number 24. When you want a censer, then turn your hand downwards and move it as if you were censing. Yeah. Okay. When you want a small martyrology, do you want that? Then move your hand and lay your index finger over your throat and raise your little finger. Oh, so maybe it's like that. Like martyrs were killed. The sign for the rule, Benedictine rule, which we know so much about, is that you move your hand and stroke with your index finger along your left hand as if you were ruling. Yeah, maybe. If you want a rod, then move your fist as if you were going to hit someone. Yeah. This is when you want a scourge, then move your fist, as we said before for the rod, and raise your two fingers. I don't know if you want a scourge. Be careful in there. Okay, this is the last one for today. There's so many more, I'm sure we'll get to them. But for today, when you want a seat cover, pinch your own clothes with two fingers, spread out your two hands, and then move them as if you were arranging a seat. Okay, and then there's lots more about like food and dinner time and bedtime. So hopefully we'll do another video. All right, well, thank you for going on this journey with me. We're just getting more and more niche and specific, but you know, we can't help ourselves. We'll be back soon with another book club. All right, I'll talk to you soon.